Hi everyone, it's Kerry back with you today. I've been having fun making these single signature journals, and I've been popping some different assorted papers on the inside of them, and it definitely gives them that handmade look and also makes them look a little bit more interesting before you even start embellishing them. I've used wallpaper for my cover, but you could use scrapbook paper or any other kind of paper. They're very quick and easy to make. So today I'm going to show you how I've created mine. Let's get started. So to begin with, I've selected a piece of wallpaper, and I've also selected a piece of, this is very thin brown like packing paper, and it's matte on one side and it's sort of a bit more shiny on the other side. I'm going to use this to line my front cover because on the back of my wallpaper I've got this writing which I don't want to show, and also just to give the journal a bit more of a finished look. I've also selected a number of pages for the inside of my journal. I've got some vintage papers, some tea-dyed papers, graph paper and some handmade paper, just to give the inside of my journal a little bit more variety. So I'm going to pop these to the side and we'll work on the cover first. So I've got my piece of wallpaper here, and I'm just going to pop a little bit of ink around the edges so that once I stick my brown paper down, if a little bit of the paper lifts up later on, or if I miscut it or something like that, you're not going to see this stark white edge of the wallpaper. Now I used archival ink to ink around the edges because this is a permanent ink, so it's not going to react with water or wipe off or anything like that. I'm just going to bring in my brown paper now. I want to make sure that the inside of my journal has this matte paper rather than the shiny side. So I'm going to apply some glue onto the back of my wallpaper here. I'm going to use a mixture of just a glue stick and also some art glitter glue for around the edges. Then making sure that I'm holding my paper up the right way, so I want the matte paper to show, I'm going to carefully cover the whole piece of wallpaper. And just pushing it down. Then once that's dry, I can flip it over and cut the excess off from around the edge of my brown paper. So now I have my wallpaper piece lined. I'm just going to sit that aside to dry properly. Whilst it's drying, I'm going to work on the pages that I've selected for the inside of my journal. So I'm just going to go ahead and fold these papers in half. And before I commit to folding these larger pieces, I just want to make sure that they are going to fit inside my journal cover. So I'm just going to fold one. And then I'm going to bring it in. And yep, there's going to be plenty of room for that. So I'm going to go ahead and fold all of my pages now. Okay, I've got all my pages folded, and these three handmade papers are my tallest pages, and then these ones vary in size. So I'm going to start building my signature. Now it's only a single signature, so I want to try and create some interest with my pages by having them layered differently, some different heights and different widths. So I might have that one at the front. Okay, so I'm happy with how that signature's looking. So I'm going to bring my cover back in and I'm going to fold this over. Now, the ends of my cover do not meet accurately, so I'm going to trim the edges off just so I have a nice clean edge on the sides of my journal. I'm just burnishing those edges down to make sure that glue's stuck. And I'm just going to trim this edge off. So now I've got a nice straight edge along my journal here, and my pages still fit in there very nicely. So I'm ready to punch my holes. I'm going to bring in my punch cradle and my awl. I'm just going to lay the journal inside and open up to the middle, and making sure that my pages are pushed down to the base of the cradle. I'm just going to eyeball roughly where I want my holes. Now, because I've got quite a few pages in here that are shorter, or they're not as wide as the pages of my book, I want to try to make sure that I get as much of those pages with 2 holes in as possible, and definitely having at least 1 hole. So I'm just using the length of my awl as a guide to where I want to put the holes, just to get them roughly even. That's it. And then I'm going to take some waxed thread, thread that onto my needle, and I'm just going to stitch these in with a 3-hole pamphlet stitch, and I want my strings to be in the middle. Just moved that middle page there, so I'll just find my hole. So by going in through the middle, it means the tails of my strings will remain on the inside of my book. So up through the middle, and I'm just going to hold the tail with my thumb. Then I'm going to come down through 1 hole, and back out through the top hole, and then back through this middle hole, and when I come up the middle, I want to try to make it so that one tail is on one side of this middle thread and the other tail is on the other side of the middle thread. Like that. So I've got my thread here in the middle, and I've got one tail on one side and one tail over here on the other side. I can take my needle out now, and I'm just going to make sure that my threads haven't gotten caught or twisted. I'm just going to tie a couple of knots in there to secure those threads. Then I'll just pull my threads to one side and snip them off about there. Close my book, just give that a good press down, and then it's pretty much finished. I like to work my pages in a little bit, so I'll go and just bend the pages back a little bit here and there, not every page, but just to help them sort of sit better in the crease of the book. And And there we go, so that's sitting nicely on both sides. So with a pattern like this, you can choose whichever side you want to be the front. I think I like that one better. And then I'm just going to take my black ink and ink along the very edge of this wallpaper cover. And then to finish off, I've just got a piece of Sari Silk here, which I'll just tie around the middle. So now I have a cute little journal to use, and you could use it just as a writing journal, leaving it as it is, or you could go ahead and embellish it any way that you liked. If you wanted to, you could add sewing around the front of the cover before you bound in your signatures, just to give it a bit more decoration. As I said earlier, you could use anything for your cover or even for your inside pages, but I have popped together a few kits in the shop using similar pages to what I've used today. I'll pop links to the kits in the description box below. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you again next time. Bye!